Hi, I'm Doug Tozier. If you don't know me, if you do, well then this is my home. I want to welcome you to my first ever YouTube video, and we're going to basically take a look at my garden and what we've been doing the past couple years. It's what I call the Desert Oasis. This is our second full season of gardening, and I just kind of want to show you some of the things I'm doing here to make that happen and some of the projects I've got going on. My reason for doing a video is twofold. Number one, I watch a lot of other videos on the internet and I've learned a lot from them, but very few of them talk about the kind of conditions that I have to deal with here in the desert. So I'm going to take you through some of that as far as what I've encountered and some of the steps I've taken to hopefully maximize what I'm able to do over there in the garden. Second reason is that I feel like what I'm learning I want to be able to share with everybody else. So I hope that this introduction will kind of get started on that path and maybe give you the inspiration to get started on something like this yourself. This is my work area, the back patio of my home, and I want to introduce you to the first of two guests, friends that we have back here, that being Max, the rabbit. And Max is a white rabbit, as you can see, and spends most of his time cooling off with a bottle of ice so that he doesn't fry in this heat. Then I also want to take you to my work area and just show you basically what I have going. This is basically my launch point for the garden. Any projects I do, anything I'm starting, I start here, and eventually it makes its way into the garden. And then we're going to start to look around the yard and see some of what we've got going. First of all, I want to take you over here to my planter that I built. And in this planter, I have a couple of things going. The rosemary is a plant, if you want to come in a little closer and get a shot of this. Jeremy, my son Jeremy is my videographer today. And so the rosemary, I started that about the same time I started the garden, and it's done absolutely very well. It has resisted pests, and with just occasional watering, it has obviously flourished, as you can see. Now, my wife bought me a pomegranate tree, and you can see that in the center of the planter. The pomegranate tree looks like it's doing pretty well, pretty healthy for its first season out here in the heat, so I'm happy with that. And then also there's a mini rose bush that I planted from my wife, and it requires a lot of water being out here in the sun, so I'm hoping that it survives because it's kind of a nice thing that I can do for her. We're going to transition a little further over, and over here we have our other friend, and that is Gobi, the desert tortoise. Now, Gobi survives mostly on grass and weeds, as well as some vegetables and things that we, scraps from the house that we can feed him on occasion. Gobi has grown from about this big to his current size, and he's just about ready to outgrow this enclosure, so we're going to maybe do some expansion here in the near future to give him a little more room to roam. We built this by hand as well, and it seems to suit him perfectly both summer and winter. We've had to make some changes in the yard. We've taken out some of the grass as we get ready to expand the garden, and we may actually be putting in a pond as well. That's kind of in the future, something we hope to be able to do. As we transition over, I've planted a couple of trees here, and they seem to be doing reasonably well. They are desert willow, and they are designed to stand the intense heat and get by with a little less water than most trees do. So that's why I chose these to occupy this corner of the yard. I also hope that pretty soon they'll be big enough to provide a little shade over here for Gobi and the rest of what I'm going to have going on as we expand things. Now, right next to that we have our compost area. Compost is important because, especially here, the soil is not very good for planting. So what we have, our real thick clay soil, isn't really good for the plants because you want a loose soil. So what we've done, the first part is this compost bin that I got from the city of Chandler, and basically we just fill it up and it's actually breaking down. This was overflowing at one time, and as it breaks down, it of course compresses down, and this is going to be what the next thing that goes into the garden area to feed the soil and help to loosen it up. You want a lot of loose organic matter. Best way to do that is yard trimmings, food, scraps from the house, and you don't want to use meats and fats and things like that. You're going to use basically your vegetable products. Eggshells are good. So that's a lot of what we have in here. And the mixture of the food and the grass clippings and things like that really make for a nice rich compost. So that's going to continue to break down over the summer. We add a little moisture to that every once in a while to help the bacteria and things to work in there and make a really nice, rich compost fertilizer for our garden. We also have a pile that is just a hole in the ground, and I've already turned it once so you can see some of that rich matter on top. If you get too close, it kind of smells bad, but with the right mixture of things and moisture, that should work out to be a pretty good mix of fertilizer for the soil for the following year. And this is the Desert Oasis, my garden. It's the place where I like to come to get away from everything else and enjoy just being in the dirt and part of nature. Now I'm going to step in here and show you kind of what I've got going. With this intense heat, I decided to cover up the part of the garden this year with this tarp. And you can see underneath the tarp, if I can get it out of the way, you can see tomato and zucchini and some different kinds of squash and cucumber there. It's really hard to see what all's going on there, but if you come in real close here, I'm going to move some of this aside, and you should be able to see some actual zucchini growing in there. And those are doing really, really well. This is one of the plants that really thrives here, and I'm really happy with the results of that, as well as the tomatoes. Now all I have going right now is your yellow pear tomatoes. And the yellow pear tomatoes are really a good flavor. They do really well here. They're quite a prolific plant. So that's one of my favorites. You'll notice that these plants underneath here, they're not showing really a whole lot of signs of wilting, especially this zucchini. Nice, green, mottled colored leaves. It's doing really, really well. Now the squash that happened to grow over here, and this squash actually was not intended. I think it was planted by a bird, quite honestly. And that happens sometimes. They get your seeds and they tend to move them around, so to speak. And this is one plant from all the way over here and down here. I had to turn it to keep it away from the wall and a tree that I planted. Anyway, it's one of the best plants I have, except that you can see what the sun is doing to some of the leaves. It is really difficult to keep these from wilting and just basically coming off in your hand. But it's done really well. Like I said, I had one squash that came off. You may have seen it on my Facebook page. You can look me up, Doug Tozier, on Facebook. I took one squash off of here that was 11.5 inches, 16.5 round. It was a very good squash. I'm looking forward to cutting into it, making a soup or some kind of vegetable medley out of it. That's why I have this garden, to add some of my own product to the food that we eat as a family. It's things like this that, like I said, do really well here, and that I'm hoping to expand this to the point that we use a lot less food from the grocery store and a lot more food that we know exactly where it came from and what's in it. That's going to conclude today's video. I just want to remind you that I'm going to be following up. This is a journey that I'm taking to become a little more self-sufficient, a little more healthy, and just to see exactly what I can grow in the kind of conditions I have to deal with here. So look for more videos. I hope that if you're watching this, you'll like it. and that you will join me in the future as we continue this journey in the desert oasis.